And we are underway.
I wasn't quite sure.
All right, for those of you for whom this may be your first trip to see a roller derby bout, we're going to first have you pay attention to the skaters with these stars on their caps. Those skaters are the jammers.
Mike, those jammers, they score points for their team. And as we get into this second jam, we'll talk about who and how.
Well, right there in that first jam, Scratcher in the Eye, who was the jammer for the Heartless Heathers, put 4 points on the board for her team.
And right now we've got number 10, the Screaming Beaver for the Heartless Heathers.
Napoleon Blown Apart jamming for the High Rollers.
Coming up, what you'll see right away is both jammers trying to fight their way through the pack, through all the other skaters to get out first. The first skater who manages to break out, as Napoleon Blown Apart is very close to doing right now, becomes what we call the lead jammer. What's that lead jammer do?
Well, you can tell who the lead jammer is by the jam ref pointing toward her. That means that she can call off the jam at any time by placing her hands on her hips, as Napoleon Blown Apart did right there. She picked up 1 point in that jam. Now the trick to getting lead jammer is to make it through the pack first, and to do so legally, not committing any penalties. Minstrel Psycho jamming for the High Rollers. Headache jamming for the Heartless Heathers.
So the way jammers score points in this game is by passing skaters of the opposing team. Right now, Minstrel Psycho on her way to the penalty box. She'll sit there for 1 minute, and Headache is our lead jammer.
So now on that initial pass, Headache was declared lead jammer. She did not score any points. Jammers do not score points until they lap the opposing blockers again. So the first pass is to establish who is the lead jammer. Every subsequent pass is for scoring points. Headache right there picking up 5 points for the Heartless Heathers, 1 point for each high roller blocker, and 1 point for Minstrel Psycho, the High Rollers jammer, who is currently in the Pabst Blue Ribbon penalty box.
That would make this her scoring pass, and she just picked up another 5 points.
Now the other skaters on the track, usually 4 for each team, those are the blockers.
Blockers play offense and defense at the same time. Right now, the High Rollers blockers are all trying to slow down Headache, and she called off the jam.
15-point effort for Headache and the Heartless Heathers in that jam. Now, as Magic Pony Power Hour was telling you, those blockers play both offense and defense at the same time. They are trying to help their jammer through the pack, while at the same time trying to stop the opposing jammer.
On the jammer line right now, Scratcher in the Eye. Heartless Heathers down 1 to the penalty box.
Scratcher in the Eye pushes her way through. She is the lead jammer.
Minstrel Psycho right now trying to find a way to get back on the track legally. The Heartless Heathers playing some pretty tricky strategies there. Scratcher in the Eye dropped out and back in.
Managed to keep 1 skate in bounds. Pushed to the outside there by Harikari. Remember, the blockers are playing both offense and defense. Minstrel Psycho now through the pack on her initial pass. Though she is not the lead jammer, she can still score points.
Right, the big difference between the lead jammer and non-lead jammer is just that ability to call off the jam at any time. On the line, Screaming Beaver once again for your Heartless Heathers.
Avalanche on the jam line for the high rollers.
High rollers down one going into this jam, and there's a pileup right off the line with the Screaming Beaver behind it.
Now that looks like Gypsy Curse in the Pabst Blue Ribbon penalty box. When you pick up a penalty, you are to report to the penalty box where you will serve 1 minute of penalty time. That 1 minute is made up of gameplay time and does not include the 30 seconds between each jam.
Screaming Beaver broke out. She is your lead jammer at the moment.
Avalanche now clear of the pack on her initial pass for the high rollers.
Screaming Beaver pushing that line forward. High rollers holding her down. They had to let her go, and Nani Richardson on her way to the penalty box for an out-of-play penalty. You want to talk about penalties a little bit, Mike? Let's do that some more.
Napoleon blown apart on the jam line for the high rollers.
And headache.
Now Nani Richardson in that last jam was whistled for a penalty at the end of that jam, so she starts serving her penalty time during this jam.
Knife on her way to the penalty box. Napoleon blown apart. Around the outside and on the run. She's your lead jammer.
Nice defense up front by Feliz Brutality, holding back Headache. That allowed Napoleon blown apart to clear the pack and get lead jammer.
That put Feliz Brutality apparently in the penalty box.
Taddy Munster now great defense against Napoleon blown apart. Hari Kari playing some offense for Napoleon.
Gypsy Curse was waved off to the penalty box, but when she got there, the high roller side of the penalty box was full. She was waved back onto the track. She'll have to keep playing until there's room in the box for her. High rollers down two.
Lining up on the Tonkin Fiat jammer line, that scratcher in the eye for the Heartless Heathers.
And Avalanche up for the high rollers.
Scratcher in the eye through the pack first. She is the lead jammer for the Heartless Heathers. Avalanche now clear of the pack for the high rollers. Both jammers now can score for their teams.
Scratcher in the eye around the outside, picks up her points and calls it off. She did that right quickly to prevent Avalanche from having an opportunity to score any points for her team.
Heartless Heathers with a 35-5 lead. Louis Armstrong, what do you got for us?
Rose City Rollers is a proud partner of the Sports Brothers program. Big brothers and big sister sports buddies, encouraging young people to get active.
Napoleon blown apart, jamming against Irie Bell. Irie Bell through the pack. Lead jammer going to the Heartless Heathers.
Napoleon blown apart out right behind her, putting the pressure on. Irie on the run on the inside line and calling it off.
3 points picked up by Irie Bell. 1 point for Napoleon blown apart.
Hey folks, let me hear some noise from the fans sitting trackside in the new Bridgetown Boneyard section. That's all you folks sitting trackside. Thank you to Bridgetown Chiropractic.
Nice job. Screaming Beaver up again.
Hari Kari jamming for the high rollers.
Screaming Beaver jumps right into it, takes a beating right off the line, but is pushing forward with 2 more to get by.
Shaolin Spocker and Bashet Nista providing the defense for the high rollers up front. Screaming Beaver picks up lead jammer for the Heartless Heathers.
High block, Bashanista and Mad Eye Marley both on their way to the penalty box.
Screaming Beaver taking some big hits in the pack right now, which has shrunk because both teams having blockers in the Pabst Blue Ribbon penalty box.
Screaming Beaver calling it off.
big thank you to the OHSU Sports Medicine Program, proud to be the official medical care team of the Rose City Rollers.
Back on the line for your high rollers.
Avalanche. Headache jamming for the Heartless Heathers.
We're down to micro derby here. The knife picks up an elbow right on the line and will be waved off the penalty box because it's currently full.
Gypsy Curse, nice offense allowing Avalanche to get through. Lead jammer going to the high rollers.
Once again, the box was full, so the knife has to wait on the track and keep playing until she has room to sit down over there.
Avalanche goes around the outside, picks up 4 points for the high rollers and calls off the jam.
Louis.
Hey folks, we'd like to thank Ron Talkin Fiat. Test drive a Fiat at Ron Talkin Fiat and get free Derby tickets.
(41-10) in favor of the Heartless Heathers. Napoleon blown apart, jamming for the high rollers.
And that scratcher in the eye for the Heartless Heathers.
Napoleon blown apart through the pack first. She is your lead jammer. Ari Kari, Rita Manuel, and Felice Brutality. Nice defense out front for the high rollers.
Lots of work going on there. Napoleon blown apart drops in on the inside line and picks up a track cut penalty. She accidentally passed somebody on the inside of the track. That's a no-no in this game, and she'll be spending a minute in the penalty box.
Scratcher in the eye, now fighting against the high rollers defense. Remember, she is not the lead jammer.
Felice Brutality escorting her out, but she gets back in and is on the run.
That was a great battle up front there between Scratcher in the eye and Felice Brutality. Scratcher eventually getting through. That was her initial pass.
Heartless Heathers holding the outside line at the moment, stringing out the pack and getting Scratcher in the eye the opportunity to push through, pick up all 5.
Heartless Heathers employing a
Taddy Munster with a passive-aggressive offense there and opens up the line. Scratcher in the eye through for another 5.
Scratcher in the eye hits the back of the pack and then passes the jam cap to Knife, who makes it through the pack for 5 points.
Napoleon blown apart, having a tough time getting back onto the track, but is in it now. Heartless Heathers all over.
Knife clears the pack for another 5 points. Napoleon blown apart out of the path of the ribbon penalty box. 4 points to her credit. Remember, when she went into the penalty box, she had already cleared on her initial pass.
Justice of the Knife. Track surfing.
And we have a team timeout. Team timeout being called by the high roller.
And we're right back in it. Mike, what's the difference between a team timeout and an official timeout? Big tumble right off the line. Sorry to interrupt you, Mike, but there's some action on the track.
Shaolin Spocker had a skate just behind the Ron Tonkin jam line.
Irie Bell picked up a track cut. She's on her way to the penalty box in just 1 minute. That leaves just Harikari on the track in a Heartless Heathers power jam.
Effie Stoneham being sent to the pass blue ribbon penalty box for the Heartless Heathers. Harikari trying to make her way through the pack. Nice defense out front by French Tickler and Bella Constrictor.
Reverse direction hit from the French Tickler will put her in the penalty box and still leave Harikari on the track all by herself with only 2 defenders from the Heartless Heathers.
That is Bella Constrictor and the Blast Unicorn trying to hold back Harikari, but Harikari through the pack. That is a 5-point grand slam for the High Rollers.
Passive-aggressive offense.
Nice job by Rogue One drawing off Bella Constrictor. That's a 5-point scoring pass for the High Rollers.
Nice job, ladies and gentlemen. Harikari weaving her way through for another 5.
Harikari helping to close the gap for the High Rollers. Irie Bell out of the Pabst Blue Ribbon penalty box, runs into a solid wall of green defense. Harikari trying to find her way around Bella Constrictor and the Blast Unicorn.
Irie Bell not taking no for an answer on that one and driving the line till the end of the jam.
Minstrel Psycho picking up a late forearm penalty at the end of that last jam. She will start the next jam in the Pabst Blue Ribbon penalty box. (64-34) still in favor of the Heartless Heathers. Feliz Brutality, though, quickly through the pack lead jammer going to the High Rollers.
High Rollers having the Screaming Beavers number in the backfield right there for a minute, slowed her down. High Rollers taking the front line on this attack. Calling it off, that's Feliz Brutality.
Nice job by Feliz Brutality using the ends of her foot stop to get through the pack there.
I like the sashes on the referees.
Those sashes a throwback to Rose City's first home season being brought back into use by our officiating crew this evening.
I thought it was a throwback to alternative universe Star Trek.
Avalanche on the jam line for the High Rollers.
And that's a headache breaking out up front. She's got a huge green wall in front of her and just can't find any sunshine. Throwing herself at it on the outside. One more to get by. Fashionista can't stop her.
Avalanche trying to navigate the wall of blue in the backfield. High Rollers blockers trying to give her some offense. Nice job by Taddy Munster forcing Avalanche to the inside.
Connie Richardson on her way into the penalty box. The High Rollers down 2 at the moment.
Well, Magic Pony, this is why it helps to keep all of your blockers on the track.
Headache back up and gets some stiff opposition with Menstrual Psycho Fashionista running that wall back there on her.
Well, Taddy Munster did a nice job punishing Avalanche. Avalanche, though, cleared the pack on her initial pass, and Headache calls off the jam after 4 more points.
What do you got, Louie?
A big thank you to Pabst Blue Ribbon, sponsors of the PBR penalty box. That's Pabst Blue Ribbon. Bad girls, good beer.
Napoleon blown apart on the jam line for the High Rollers.
First time of the evening, the Blast Unicorn up for the Heartless Heathers. Trying to find some light on the outside of that pack right now.
French Tickler and Bella Constrictor again trying to work over Napoleon, blown apart. Nice hit by French Tickler, dropping Napoleon to the outside of turn 3.
2 more to get by. The Blast Unicorn on the outside.
Now Napoleon has lead jammer status. She had cleared the pack first.
Last unicorn on the run. Did she do it? 2 points. Just eked out those points before Napoleon could call that off.
Heartless Heathers with a 40-point lead right now. Minstrel Psycho takes to the jam line for Gangrene.
Heavy rotation of the Screaming Beaver tonight. She's been on the track a whole lot. And I think we're just about to see why. Pushing hard up front. Screaming Beaver once again takes lead jammer.
Steve Holt headed to the Path Blue Ribbon penalty box. Minstrel Psycho working against Taddy Munster and Knife at the front of the pack.
The knife drops her out but follows her.
Taddy Munster does a nice job anchoring the line, forcing Minstrel Psycho to come in behind her.
Screaming Beaver and Minstrel Psycho breaking out of the pack together. It's a race to the back of the pack, and Screaming Beaver calls it off.
Thank you to Joe's Burgers. 4 locations, awesome burgers, and the official feeder of Rose City Rollers Volunteers.
First jam of the evening for number 25. Irie Bell.
Feliz Brutality jamming for the High Rollers. Feliz goes to the inside, lead jammer, High Rollers.
That was an amazing run down that line. Irie Bell just about to break out, shrugging off hits. She's on her scoring pass.
Feliz Brutality this time goes to the outside, clears the pack, calls off the jam, 4 points, High Rollers.
She has really fast feet. Louie, what do you got?
I've got Kind Bars. Snack like there's no tomorrow with Kind Snacks.
Napoleon blown apart returns to the jam line for the High Rollers.
And number 3. Knife for the Heartless Heathers. Both jammers pushing pretty hard on the back of that line. Knife dropped to the inside with Napoleon blown apart right on top of her. Taddy Munster dragging her back.
Knife hits that wall of green at the front of the pack. Napoleon blown apart, hitting the 4 wall in the back of the pack, but it's Knife through the pack first. Lead jammer, Heartless Heathers.
Multiplayer block called on Avalanche. She'll be spending a minute in the penalty box. And a cut.
So Napoleon blown apart, going to report to the Path Blue Ribbon penalty box, and that is a power jam for Knife and the Heartless Heathers.
Knife calling that one off early. That's the Blast Unicorn once again for your Heartless Heathers. Having a tough time breaking through that line.
Heartless Heathers there trying to squeeze the defense, and it worked. Blast Unicorn through the pack, lead jammer, Heartless Heathers.
Blast Unicorn ripping up that line.
Donnie Richardson being whistled to the Path Blue Ribbon penalty box for a track cut as the Blast Unicorn rolls round the outside. 5 points, Heartless Heathers.
French Tickler and Effie Stoneham running the line in the back for the Heartless Heathers. Circling in to cut off the High Rollers' opportunity to drag back their jammer. And the Blast Unicorn pushing the line forward. Breaks out for another 5.
Blast Unicorn calls off the jam. Heartless Heathers with a 60-point lead sends Screaming Beaver out to jam.
And Minstrel Psycho back on the line. Squeaks in behind Scratcher in the eye. She's on her attack run.
Nice swarming defense.
Back block called on Minstrel Psycho. That leaves the Screaming Beaver on the track all by herself in a power jam.
Heartless Heathers looking to cash in on this situation. High Rollers with 2 blockers and a jammer in the penalty box. Worst of all worlds for them as the Heartless Heathers continue to run points up on their side of the scoreboard.
Screaming Beaver powers her way through that line.
Nani Richardson out of the Pabst Blue Ribbon penalty box. She rejoins the action for the High Rollers. Screaming Beaver fighting against the front. Calls off the jam. 3 points on that scoring pass.
Louis Armstrong, what do you got?
A big thank you to the New Belgium Brewing Company. Fat Tire Ranger IPA. Be sure to grab one from concessions.
Headache on the line for the Heartless Heathers.
Minstrel Psycho still in the Pabst Blue Ribbon penalty box for the High Rollers. High Rollers trying to kill off the last bit of this power jam.
Police brutality and Napoleon blown apart, giving her a beating up front, but she breaks through.
Headache took a big hit from Napoleon blown apart at the front of that pack, just shrugged it off. Heathers with some active offense trying to get Headache through the pack on this scoring pass. Steve Holt and Gypsy Curse working out front, but Headache through for 5 points.
Minstrel Psycho back on the track and running through that pack. And picked up another back block on her way to the penalty box. That leaves Headache on the track in another power jam.
Police brutality now headed to the Pabst Blue Ribbon penalty box, direction of play penalty, and the Heathers just continue to cash in on the High Rollers' miscues.
French Tickler at knife, making a mess out of the line there. Napoleon blown apart. Steve Holt dishing out a beating as Headache calls it off.
Good teamwork there by the High Rollers. Steve Holt, Gypsy Curse, and Napoleon blown apart.
A big thank you to Voodoo Donut. The magic is in the hole. Proud sponsor of the Rose City Rollers and the Wheels of Justice.
I love those Voodoo Donuts. Irene Bell. All by herself out there.
High Rollers down their jammer and down a blocker. Heathers have done a great job so far this bout, taking advantage of those numbers games. Irene Bell through the pack, lead jammer, Heartless Heathers.
Shaolin Spocker, Braun Swanson up front trying to slow her down. Irene Bell not one to take no for an answer, finds her way through on the inside, drop to the end. The High Rollers do their best to drag her back.
Fashionista doing a good job there, anchoring the line for her pack, allowing it to extend out and play defense. Again, Braun Swanson with that exit hit. Minstrel Psycho out of the Pabst Blue Ribbon penalty box.
Taddy Munster dropping her to the inside. And both jammers being dragged to the very back of the pack.
We are almost a minute into this jam, and it is whistled dead. 5 points for the Heartless Heathers. Avalanche on the jam line for the High Rollers. Scratcher in the eye for the Heartless Heathers.
Ladies and gentlemen, let me hear some noise from the Players Club. Who's a High Rollers fan?
Icebox, make some noise for Scratcher of the Eye and the Heartless Heathers.
High Rollers fans, you can do better than that. Let me hear some noise for your High Rollers.
Heathers fans, you got an answer for that?
The more noise you make, the harder they play. That's a back block.
Looks like we may have a couple of back block penalties being assessed.
Avalanche and the French Tickler both fighting for a chance to get to the penalty box.
Once again, that's going to put the Heartless Heathers in a power jam. Scratcher in the eye.
Scratcher dropped out just barely avoiding a track cut. Saved herself.
But it looks like she might have been hugging Bad Wolf there. I'm not 100% certain.
She stayed. She made it look good. High Rollers definitely having her number on that one. Action comes to a dead standstill in the end, and it's called off.
And ladies and gentlemen, we are at halftime. Heartless Heathers 141, High Rollers 39.
On the line, once again, that's the Screaming Beaver for your Heartless Heathers.
Now the Heathers have only 2 blockers on the track right now. High Rollers with 4 blockers on the track. Screaming Beaver making it back inside. Legally, and she is lead jammer for the Heartless Heathers.
Screaming Beaver back up against that line. 4 massive High Rollers blockers trying to slow her down.
That's Braun Swanson, Bashan, Nista, Feliz Brutality, and Shaolin Spocker.
Bridging out, we call that. She finally finds her way through.
Heathers open up the second half as they closed out the first half. Avalanche deciding to exit the penalty box in the direction of gameplay.
Avalanche up against it, dropped to the floor.
Braun Swanson back to play offense for the High Rollers. Avalanche through the pack on her initial pass.
Knife with some crazy acrobatics back there going after her. She takes this game pretty seriously. And the Screaming Beaver calls it off.
And Magic Pony Power Hour, it looks like the Pabst Blue Ribbon penalty box is going to be empty to start this next jam.
Holy mackerel. Ladies and gentlemen in the Players Club, make some noise for your High Rollers. Much better.
Napoleon blown apart, jamming once again for the High Rollers.
And Headache taking a beating in the backfield right now.
Napoleon blown apart through the pack, lead jammer going to the High Rollers.
Shredder Cheese and Menstrual Psycho making it a miserable day for a Headache back there.
Mad Eye Marley reporting to the Pabst Blue Ribbon penalty box.
Napoleon blown apart through for her points and calling it off.
4 points for Napoleon blown apart. Louis Armstrong, how you doing down there?
A big thank you to the Portland Mercury, providing the food, arts, and entertainment news you need. We've got a great season coming up. You can get your tickets for upcoming events at the hangar at portlandmercury.com.
Once again, Irie Bell on the line for the Heartless Heathers.
Feliz Brutality jamming for the High Rollers. Goes from outside to in through the pack. Lead jammer High Rollers.
High Rollers doing a super job just sweeping the line, leaving the door wide open for Feliz Brutality back there. And right now doing a super job slowing down Irie Bell.
Forearm penalty being assessed to Braun Swanson. She is going to report to the Pabst Blue Ribbon penalty box. Feliz Brutality still trying to work her way through the pack. Big hit by Bella Constrictor.
Feliz Brutality shrugging off hits left and right, breaks her way through there.
Reed Emanuel and Shaolin Spock are doing a good job holding back Irie Bell. Feliz Brutality around the track, engaging on a scoring pass once again.
French Stickler doing a good job slowing down Feliz Brutality right there, but she breaks through, takes her points, and calls it off. Louis.
We'd like to thank a new sponsor this season, Twist Sport Conditioning Center, the official training partner of the Wheels of Justice. Visit twistportland.com.
Thank you, Louis Armstrong.
Heather still with a commanding lead. High Rollers looking to eat into that. Avalanche jamming for the High Rollers.
And for your Heartless Heathers, that's the Blast Unicorn, but
Avalanche through the pack lead jammer going to the High Rollers.
Blast Unicorn finds the hole on the inside and makes the run. She's on her scoring pass.
High Rollers setting up in the back of the pack. Heather's in the front. Avalanche trying to go around the outside. Picks up 1 point and calls off the jam.
Headache on the line for the Heartless Heathers again.
Napoleon blown apart on the Tonkin Fiat jammer line for the High Rollers. Four to 3 pack advantage for the Heartless Heathers to start this jam, Magic.
Old school derby, everybody's playing up at the pivot line, and it's a battle going on right now.
Napoleon blown apart, tries to go to the inside through the pack, gets pushed inside, turns 1 and 2.
Skeeve Holt and Harikari doing a good job slowing down Headache in the front.
Napoleon blown apart, pushing the Heathers defense up front now.
Mortar and pistol down, it's Taddy Munster and Knockbox trying to stop Napoleon blown apart, dropping her out. And Taddy Munster drags her to the very back of the pack, forces the
track cut being called. Napoleon blown apart, headed to the Pabst Blue Ribbon penalty box.
Down goes Slamrocks! Down goes Slamrocks!
Headache now in a power jam for the Heartless Heathers. Clear on a 5-point scoring pass.
Heartless Heathers with the passive-aggressive offense. Headache dropped to the outside. Braun showing her the door.
That was a nice counter by Braun Swanson there. Active offense by the Heartless Heathers. Braun Swanson having none of it though. Nice counter.
Really did a good job with that. Louis, what do you got?
Hey folks, we want to give a special shout out to all of the Rose City Rollers alumni who are here tonight to help us kick off our 10th anniversary season. Give it up, RCR alumni!
Woo!
I think I saw Napalm Beth out there somewhere.
Oh my goodness.
Screaming Beaver jamming for the Heartless Heathers. They are in a power jam once again. Multiplayer block being assessed. That goes against Minstrel Psycho.
Screaming Beaver with 2 more to get by. It's Feliz Brutality and Shaolin Spocker slowing her down.
That was Minstrel Psycho's 5th trip to the Pabst Blue Ribbon penalty box. Remember, 7 trips and you are done for the evening.
Screaming Beaver once again up against that line, driving it forward. If she can push them far enough forward, they have to let her go, and she did it once again. 5 more for the Heartless Heathers.
High Rollers now losing Nani Richardson to the Pabst Blue Ribbon penalty box. They are now down 2 blockers.
Screaming Beaver shrugging off Shaolin Spocker as Napoleon blown apart gets back on the track and brawls it with the knife.
Dicey move by Knife, nearing the out of play there. Napoleon blown apart continued to push. Heartless Heathers continuing to take advantage of every opportunity the High Rollers giving them. High Rollers down 2 blockers to start this next jam. Avalanche on the Tonkin Fiat jammer line.
And that's Irie Bell for your Heartless Heathers. Irie Bell being supported by French Stickler, the Blast Unicorn. And a couple of numbers I couldn't see because they're moving so fast. A lot of action going on. Irie Bell can't find her way to break through. Avalanche playing a lot of good defense of her own. Irie Bell with one more to get by. It's Harikari trying to slow her down.
Irie Bell, though, clear of the pack first. Lead Jammer going to the Heartless Heathers. Avalanche being pushed to the outside and recycled all the way back.
Avalanche and Minstrel Cycle coming back onto the track at the same time with Mad Eye Marley. Irie Bell on another scoring pass.
Extremely smart and cerebral defense and offense being played by the Heartless Heathers. Avalanche now clear on her initial pass.
Irie Bell playing a bit of that push hard until it moves strategy, calling it off on her way down.
And it looks like Minstrel Psycho being hit with an elbow penalty at the end of that last jam.
On the line for your Heartless Heathers, that's number 71, Headache.
Police Brutality jamming for the High Rollers and quickly through the pack. Lead Jammer High Rollers.
That was amazing.
That was fast.
She is really quick and found that door, broke her way through. Once again, on the inside, she does the same thing.
Gets her 4 points and calls off the jam after Headache cleared the pack.
Louis.
Hey folks, don't forget to visit the table near the front entrance for some fantastic Rose City Rollers merchandise. If you can't find your size at the merch table, then check out our full online store of merchandise at rosecityrollers.com.
The Blast Unicorn. And Napoleon Bonaparte for your High Rollers.
The Blast Unicorn jamming for the Heartless Heathers.
Tough start out there. And a back block assessed to Napoleon Bonaparte. Kari also on her way to the penalty box. A little bit of shifting around out there, everybody trying to figure out what to do, and the Blast Unicorn is your lead jammer. Weaving her way through, not touching a body. Blast Unicorn takes all 5.
And keep in mind, folks, this is last year's 4th place team taking on and really putting it to the champions. Another 5-point scoring pass for the Blast Unicorn.
Blast Unicorn trying to weave it to the out, breaks to the in, picks up another 5 for the Heartless Heathers and calls it off.
We'd like to thank Car2Go. Meet the future of car sharing today. Sign up at car2go.com.
Power Jam, Heartless Heathers. Scratcher in the eye, attacking the line.
Heathers blocker standing right in front of that Tonkin Fiat jammer line. Their inactive offense actually helps their jammer get through.
Scratcher in the eye, trying to find the outside. Feliz Brutality on the run to the back. And she's on her way to the penalty box for a track cut. That's Scratcher in the eye.
Heartless Heathers try to draw Napoleon back. She exits the penalty box in the direction of gameplay, does not get drawn back. Nice offense by the High Rollers. And Napoleon Bonaparte through on her initial pass.
Absolutely true, but she is... Lots of whistles going off in this game. This game's a good show for how important it is to keep your blockers out of the penalty box.
Knife headed to the penalty box, a back block penalty. That will earn her 1 minute worth of penalty time. Meanwhile, Napoleon Bonaparte skates through on the inside. 5-point scoring pass, High Rollers.
Napoleon blown apart right up against it. Pushing through one more to get by. Mortar and Pistol trying to stop her. Drops her to the in and picks up an out of play penalty.
Napoleon blown apart was looking for that out of play call, finally got it.
Should have been there. Oh.
20 feet is hard sometimes. Napoleon blown apart through the pack, 5-point scoring pass, High Rollers.
Scratch her in the eye, back on the track and throwing herself at that line. High Rollers waiting for her. That's a big wall slowing her down.
And a back block penalty being assessed to Napoleon blown apart. She will head to the Pabst Blue Ribbon penalty box. So both jammers have gone to the penalty box this jam.
Is that 3 power jams in that jam?
I think so. And we've got a team timeout, High Rollers. We're going to kick it over to DJ Agent Meow.
And we're right back at it. Screaming Beaver on the track all by herself there. 2 blockers. And now 3 for the Heartless Heathers to support her.
Screaming Beaver
jammer
goes round the outside. Lead jammer, Heartless Heathers. Heathers activating their offense. Screaming Beaver goes round the outside, taking advantage. 5 points, Heartless Heathers.
Blast Unicorn, the Knife, and the French Tickler. And Screaming Beaver being called for a track cut to manage to take 1 step out there.
Now that was Shaolin Spocker on the far side of the track who drew that track cut for the High Rollers. Nicely done.
Napoleon blown apart, released from the box as soon as Screaming Beaver sat down.
High Rollers attempting to get some offense. Forearm penalty, Blast Unicorn. No pack being called. Napoleon blown apart through the pack, and Knife now going to the penalty box for the Heartless Heathers. That was a lot of penalties.
French Tickler and Mortar and Pistol up front. Can't stop her. She's through for another 5.
It's now the High Rollers with the numbers advantage. They have 4 blockers on the track to the Heartless Heathers 2.
Screaming Beaver back on the track and met with a huge line from the High Rollers. Not much progress to be made.
5-point grand slam, Napoleon blown apart.
Mortar and Pistol, French Tickler drop in to give her some help, and she's up front. Breaking out, takes all 5.
Nice switch from defense to offense for the High Rollers, trying to get Napoleon blown apart through on that scoring pass.
Once again, the big green wall in the back. And that jam is off.
4 more points for Napoleon blown apart as that jam comes to an end. Louis Armstrong.
Hey everybody, don't forget about tonight's raffle. We've got a fantastic prize, a bike cruiser from Fat Tire. Tickets are $1 each, 10 tickets for $5. Just look in the crowd for the roving raffle wranglers waving those strands of tickets.
Avalanche jamming for the High Rollers. Headache jamming for the Heartless Heathers.
Headache up front breaks out, takes lead jammer.
Pabst Blue Ribbon penalty box empties out. Full contingent of blockers on the track for each team. Though that is short-lived as Braun Swanson now reporting to the penalty box, as is Avalanche. Power jam Heartless Heathers.
Fashionista drops right in and starts putting the pressure on the Headache.
Nice job by Headache to keep herself inbounds and continuing to push on that wall of defense.
Bit of a tumble, she gets up and runs. Rogue One, Rita Manuel, Fashionista holding the line. And the attack.
Nice job by Blast Unicorn pushing out Rogue One.
Headache taking that beating up front. Fashionista just not letting go of it.
Fashionista, though, great job of defense without picking up that direction of play penalty.
And the line is open. Headache driving her way in, pushes through, another scoring pass.
Excellent control of her footwork. Nice job by Headache. 5 more points for the Heartless Heathers.
Thank you to PDX Pipeline, your online source for Portland's music, arts, and events happenings.
Irie Bell back on the line for your Heartless Heathers. Shaolin Spocker, Hari Kari, and Nani Richardson working her over in the front. Shaolin Spocker bridging out. Nani and Hari Kari have her on the line. She won't go down. Hari Kari can't stop her up front. Irie Bell, lead jammer.
French Tickler just levels Avalanche, who gets recycled all the way to the back of the pack. High Rollers defense set up in the front of the pack. Irie Bell pushing against Shaolin Spocker.
Heartless Heathers lining up on Avalanche right now. Hari Kari with a sweet clean. Holds the door open for Hari Kari, and the French Tickler smashes her.
Avalanche and French Tickler going at it in the front of the pack. They have all bout long.
Some real textbook derby right there. Oh, Louie, go ahead.
Folks, don't forget, after tonight's doubleheader is complete, we've got an after party for you at the Bossa Nova Ballroom. That's at 722 East Burnside Street, featuring a dance party with DJ Gregarious.
Looks like we have an official review down on the track. Looks like it was called by the High Rollers. We are going to send the King down to check it out and report.
We'll take this opportunity to do a few league sponsor shout outs. Huge thank yous to Portland Vital Signs, She Bop, City Graphics, Portland Independent Films, and K's Lounge.
All right, so what they're reviewing is the High Rollers saying that there was a cut by the jammer. They wanted to see if anybody else had seen it out there on the track. The officials have reviewed it, and I believe the play will stand as a no call.
Thank you very much, the King.
Police brutality on the jam line for the high rollers.
And knockbox for the Heartless Heathers. Old school pivot line start gives us plenty of time to see knockbox take lead jammer.
Police brutality trying to fight her way through on the inside rail. She gets clear of the pack on her initial pass. Taddy Munster whistled for a penalty in the backfield. She is going to report to the Pabst Blue Ribbon penalty box.
That jam is off. 4 points for the Heartless Heathers.
At the tail end of that jam, Mad-Eye Marley being sent to the Pabst Blue Ribbon penalty box for hitting after the final whistle.
A quick thank you to Kelly Brown, Debt Relief. Kelly Brown likes roller derby. That's Kelly Brown, Debt Relief.
Headache on the line for your Heartless Heathers.
Shaolin Spocker jamming for the high roller. Shaolin Spocker around the outside, lead jammer Gangrene.
Bit of a pileup in turn one. Turns into a bit of a pileup in turn two. And Headache trying to find her way through. Some fancy skating on the line. Gets her out on her scoring pass.
Headache has been showing off her footwork all bout long. Shaolin Spocker makes it through the pack. 4 points and calls off the jam.
Louie.
Rose City Rollers is a proud partner of the Big Brothers and Big Sisters Sports Buddies program, encouraging young people to get and stay active.
K2 Avalanche for the High Rollers, and number 10, the Screaming Beaver.
Both jammers clearing the pack. Avalanche picking up lead jammer for the high rollers. Heartless Heathers, though, putting on an offensive display tonight against last year's champions.
Avalanche up on the line, breaks through, and grabs her points. All 4 for the High Rollers, nothing. Menstrual Psycho. Shaolin Spocker and Knockbox for your Heartless Heathers. Shaolin Spocker with some action right off the line is right now dropped out, being dragged back by the French tickler. Braun Swanson on her way to the penalty box.
Now keep in mind, Derby fans, though the Heartless Heathers really putting it to the high rollers right now, this season the home teams will be playing each other twice. So later in the season, the high rollers will have a chance to avenge themselves against the Heartless Heathers.
Shaolin Spocker eked out on the outside line and dragged to the back by Taddy Munster. And then that jam was called off.
Thank you to the OHSU Sports Medicine Program, providing immediate care for Rose City Rollers athletes through our sports medicine hotline at 503-494-4000.
Napoleon blown apart on the jam line for the high rollers.
And Irie Bell plowing the outside line takes lead jammer.
Heartless Heathers working together like a well-oiled machine tonight. They are dialed in. Napoleon blown apart finds room on the inside. She is clear on her initial pass.
Irie Bell on the attack. Sweeps right through, takes her points and calls it off.
Feliz Brutality out to jam for the High Rollers.
And once again, that's number 10, the Screaming Beaver for your Heartless Heathers.
Feliz Brutality going to the outside, now coming back to the end through turn 2.
Harikari with a gigantic hit on the outside line, slowed down the Screaming Beaver just enough for Feliz Brutality to break through and take lead jammer.
High Rollers doing that with only 2 blockers on the track. Skeven Holt with a big hit on French Tickler.
Braun Swanson jumps back into the game and starts dishing out hits.
A fan sitting trackside in the Bridgetown Boneyard section. Let me hear you make some noise.
Headache on the jam line for the Heartless Heathers.
K2 Avalanche jamming for your High Rollers right now. Avalanche quick on the feet, trying inside and out.
And it's Headache through the pack once again. Lead jammer, Heartless Heathers.
Avalanche on her scoring pass, and the High Rollers take the front line.
High Rollers rotating their defense up front. Headache hits that wall, turns her hips, gets 1 point for her effort as she calls off the jam.
Back on the line, that's number 25, Irie Bell for your Heartless Heathers.
Napoleon blown apart jamming for the High Rollers. A little bit of jammer defense against Irie Bell to start this jam.
Irie Bell found it for her way through her line and is up against the High Rollers right now. Dropped down and being dragged back. Way back. Napoleon blown apart still working the blue line in the front with Taddy Munster and the knife giving her a bad time.
That is a heck of a wall of defense up front. That is Knife, Taddy Munster, and French Tickler.
On her way to the penalty box.
And Napoleon blown apart being called for a track cut. Power jam, Heartless Heathers.
Irie Bell up against the line once again. Braun Swanson bridging out. Down to 2 more to get by.
Skeeve Holt now bridging out. Rogue One and Harikari working up front. Rogue One, last line of defense. Irie Bell clears the pack. 5 points, Heartless Heathers.
Setting up shop in the front. High Rollers, Taddy Munster takes a swing, freaks everybody out, and Irie Bell's attacking the line.
Braun Swanson again with a nice counter off that inside line for the High Rollers, though. Irie Bell forced out of the front straightaway, calls off the jam, but picked up 4 points on that scoring pass. Heartless Heathers and the Blast Unicorn going to start this jam as a power jam. High Rollers, though, have all 4 blockers out on the track. And Blast Unicorn picks up lead jammer status for the Heartless Heathers.
Blast Unicorn pushing on that line. Works her way through and takes all 5.
Bad Wolf did a nice job pushing the Blast Unicorn out of bounds, but unfortunately went out with her.
Napoleon blown apart back on the track. Drops back in and a something going on in there.
And a track cut penalty going to be assessed to Feliz Brutality.
After a cap cover pass.
That means this is going to be a power jam for the Heartless Heathers. Blast Unicorn 5 more points and calls off the jam. And a team timeout being called by the Heartless Heathers.
Heartless Heathers with a cheer on the sideline, getting ready for things and dropping the Screaming Beaver onto the jammer line. To run out the last 13 seconds. Official seconds of the game. Of course, in this game, if the jam runs past the official clock, we go to the end of the jam. For those of you who weren't paying attention earlier, there's another game coming up. After intermission. Mike, who's playing in that game?
That would be the Breakneck Betties taking on the Guns and Rollers.
And we ought to try that again. All you fans in Breakneck Alley, coming up next, the Breakneck Betties versus the Guns and Rollers.
Not gonna lie, I'm looking forward to that one. That's gonna be a lot of fun.
All right, the question right now on the track and what they're talking about is when the cut was called on Feliz Brutality, she did not have the jammer cap on. She had possession of it, but it was not on her helmet. Therefore, she was still the pivot and not the jammer yet. So, she will still serve her time. She'll simply move a seat, but they will be able to field a jammer on this last jam.
So, not a power jam for Screaming Beaver and the Heartless Heathers as the High Rollers send out Shaolin Spocker to the Tonkin Fiat jammer line for what will most likely be the final jam in this bout.
I've never seen this happen before.
A final jam? They happen every bout. There's a final jam in every
Maybe
bout.
I just wasn't paying attention.
Oh, okay.
Actually, I've never seen this game before. All right, here we go.
Four to 3 pack advantage for the Heathers to start this final jam.
Screaming Beaver fighting to break through the line.
Shaolin Spocker working against the 4 wall of Heathers at the back of the pack.
Nani Richardson, Harikari, Braun Swanson up front.
Shaolin Spocker continues to push, but it's Screaming Beaver through the pack. Lead jammer, Heartless Heathers.
Screaming Beaver on the run. Shaolin Spocker with just 1 or 2 to get by. Taddy Munster swing and a miss. Couldn't quite knock her down.
And a track cut being called on Shaolin Spocker. She is going to head to the Path Blue Ribbon penalty box and will be followed by Screaming Beaver, also called on a track cut penalty. So this final jam is going to go a full 2 minutes.
I told you I'd never seen this before.
Whoa.
Police brutality. Back on the track. Shaolin Spocker released from the penalty box. Working her way around and meets up with the knife in the backfield.
Knife got absolutely leveled by Shaolin Spocker. Felice Brutality up taking on Taddy Munster.
Taddy Munster dishing out some huge hits in these last couple of jams.
Heathers have been absolutely ruthless in their defense tonight.
Shaolin Spocker pushing forward, mistress of the knife, driving her down, and Harikari cleaning her out.
There's some amazing hits in this final jam.
And now I understand why you guys like this game so much.
I'm glad you could join us tonight.
That's really fun. Ladies and gentlemen, that's the end of the game.
And last year's fourth place team, the Heartless Heathers, have knocked off the reigning home season champion High Rollers. But fans, keep in mind, the home season this year is twice as long, so the High Rollers are going to have their chance for revenge later this season.
Ladies and gentlemen, I need to remind you to stay behind the barricades. Please don't rush the track. Coming up in just a few moments, we'll have the victory laps, the official score, and the awarding of the MVP awards.
Well, Magic Pony Power Hour, an offensive display by the Heartless Heathers tonight, putting up nearly 300 points on the scoreboard. And the Heartless Heathers taking a well-deserved victory lap.
Right now, make some noise for your Heartless Heathers!
And ladies and gentlemen, give it up for their opponents, the High